I want to. I figured that we're, it's break. You had a lot of cold weather, and then we had warm weather, and then we had cold weather again. And it's just like, just when you think things are opening up, we've got slammed another time. Hopefully it's the last time. But I was actually in Colombia, so we had nice weather, except the day I left, we had lots of rain, but I wasn't there, so awesome. But nice weather in Bogota is like 70 degrees, so it's not like it's 90 or something. Anyway, I thought it would be really good if we just had a little bit of a slower class and more of an open class, and I'll talk a little bit, and then I want to have a few students up, a few volunteers up to the front to talk about a few issues, okay? And what I'd like to do right now is just take about 10 minutes to talk about the beginning foundation of understanding or explaining human behavior. And I think that there's probably, it may be true. In fact, if there's, man, when I learned this, what I'm about to talk about for the next 10 minutes, I didn't realize it, but it was changing, it was reconfiguring the foundation of my intellectual understanding of the world. And it was one of those things that I started thinking about and I thought more about, and it's like you go deeper into the rabbit hole or you peel the onion or whatever it is, and I just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper and seeing it in more cosmic ways. And one time I was, I don't want to glorify it, but I was on a mushroom trip, and I felt like this is the thing that helped me to, I felt this is the thing that led me to God, right? So, for better or for worse, this was the single most important thing I've learned in my career or my understanding as a social scientist. So take 10 minutes. Give me your full focus. Don't look at your phones. Don't do anything else. And trust me, you won't, it'll just land. It's like a seed. But if you're a thinker, and some of you are, if some of you aren't yet, but you will be, this will be one of the really important roots of the tree of knowledge that you will develop. And maybe it'll be a small tree or a medium size or a large tree, but the point is it will be a really important root. So the question is, why do we do the things that we do? And why do we become the people we become? And, in a class in race and ethnic and cultural relations, it's an essential question. Because when you look out over a population, a very diverse population like I am right now, you see so many differences. And there are differences that we can't see. And this whole class is really about differences. And about similarities as well, right? But differences in particular. And we want to understand those, right? I mean, this is, if you're a thinker in any way, shape, or form, you want to try to understand what are the origins of the differences that human beings display in their behavior and their thinking and their thoughts and feelings and so on, right? Okay, so this is it. This is what we're doing. And if you go back and watch every single class from the beginning of the semester, you will see that every single class is, at the heart of it, is trying to understand the differences and similarities, but again, differences, I just want to focus on that, in gender, in race, in culture, in nationality, and so on, right? This is what this is about, and we want to understand it. And everything in the world of sociology and psychology is designed for that, right? It's very simple. Why are some people homeless? Why is your Uncle Nestor a dick, right? And like, what made him such a dick? You know, like, he seems like he's your mom's brother, and it's just like he grew up in the same household, and your mom seems like such a nice person, but your Uncle Nestor is a dick, right? Why is that? Like, what makes him that way? Why are some people homeless? Why are some people going to, why do you have friends who just are sort of locked in their rooms playing video games? Like, what is it? Or some people who, why is it some days, I don't know, just some parts of you that you're like, your family's all going down this stream this way, and you just feel like you don't really belong. Why is that? Why don't you belong? Why are some people homeless? Why are some people bad with their money? You have friends who are just really bad with money. And like, why is that? And so we're always asking why? What accounts for these differences? Right? If you have siblings, if there's more than one child in a household, then you want to understand what it is that makes you different from your siblings. Because you are. Maybe, you have a sibling that's really introverted, and you want to know, like, what made that person introverted? It's like, well, he's just always been that way. But if you're a thinker, if you're really a thinker, that is not sufficient, because you really want to know. It's like, damn it, like, you just really want to know what makes us different. And why is it? And why is it that some groups of people, racial groups, ethnicity groups, nationalities, whatever it is, what makes some people act and behave in some ways and other people in other ways, right? Why do we have all this income inequality on the basis of race? Why is that? Why is it that white people dominate in the United States? Like, what are the factors and forces that led white people to really have a leg up on other people? Are we, like, so you want to start, you start asking the questions. Are white people, are we like harder workers? Is there something about just that part of Europe that produced a certain set of genes that led to X, Y, or Z? Are white people more violent? Were white people just really ready and capable and able to use a kind of violence? Were white people less moral, which allowed certain Europeans to go and start a system of chattel slavery that the world had never seen? Are white people just more aggressive? Are they smarter? It's like, it's just like, yeah, you just figured it out. We built this amazing system here, this place called the United States, that like, yeah, so, okay, but it's based on a certain violence, but it's based on intellect and tenacity and hard work, and they somehow frame certain things. Like, what is that? Like, what? We're always asking what and why. And so, if you're not asking these questions, if you're not wondering, if you don't see the homeless person walking down the street and you ask yourself, wow, how did that person get homeless? What are the factors and forces that led that person to be homeless on the street? And if you settle for one simple thing, first off, if you're not asking those questions, then I don't, either A, it's because your mind is just so consumed with other really fascinating things, like maybe you're an architect or you're an engineer and you're not looking at the homeless person, you're busy wondering how the hell they built these buildings or something like that, right? But in the world of social science, if you're not asking those questions, you're not even alive. You're not even thinking, because these are the questions that are just driving us. Like, why? Okay? And they're awesome questions. Like, oh my God, they're awesome questions. This is the mystery of life. So, the idea is the answers are, most everything is unanswerable. So we can start right there. But the degree to which we can answer, I'm gonna give you a dichotomous way of starting your analysis. It's dichotomous, starting your analysis. So if you can go to the next slide. So over here on this side, I want to talk about the inner causes. Okay, all the stuff that's inside, right? The decisions we make, the freedom that we have, our socialization, socialization actually is on both sides. So I don't know what, socialization should be actually on the other side. But our decisions, our desires, are open opportunities. Okay? I don't know why I put it there. But, all right, so listen. So leave socialization out of that. So it's like me. And we all want to believe, especially like when good things happen to us, we always have this idea like, well, I chose that. Right? Like you all will think, oh, I chose Penn State. I mean, a free decision to come to Penn State. Or I chose to come to this class. Or I chose my major. Or I chose to be, in the position I'm in. Whatever the case is, right? Like, we have this side over here, choosing. So if we look at the homeless person, it's like, well, that person made choices in their life that led them to be in this position to be homeless. We start thinking, we start lining up what all those freedoms are, and the choices and the opportunities and decisions, etc., right? Over here are all of the factors and forces that are kind of outside of us. The things that, like, why do you have the major you have? Why are you at Penn State? Why are you not homeless? So if we focus here, we're looking at all the things above us, all the structure, all the factors and forces outside of our control. We're looking at the chance things, like the families we grew up in, the determinism, the way in which life is just structured by things outside of us. We're determined in certain areas, right? We're being pushed along by so many forces and factors. It's like, I don't even have time to think because I'm so busy being pushed along, trying to make a single decision on my own. My culture, right? My biology, right? Like like for me, for example, I'm really shy. So if you put me like kind of in a small group, I'm really shy. But for some reason, I can go into a classroom like this or into a big hall or do something, and I can just go for it. And you probably think like, wow, this guy's so extroverted. Man, I sing, but I can't sing in front of a group. Like, I'm a musician. I play drums. I used to sit behind my drums because I had tons of cymbals. So if anyone's a drummer here, like in my last drum set, I had like 14 or 15 cymbals all around me so that nobody could see me. Because I didn't want anyone watching me because it's like a private thing. You know what I mean? And so why is that? Why is it that I can come in here and be how I am, and yet I'm this really kind of shy, more inward person who doesn't really want to be seen? And I would have a really hard time just busting out like a simple dance move here. Like, I would be so embarrassed, and just to even sing a single line of a song, I would be embarrassed, and it's like, I can't do that. But I can do this, right? So how is that? It's got to be something inside of me, right? It's not a choice, right? Maybe it's something in me. Maybe it's like, I don't know, did something happen in my childhood? I don't really know. But all the customs in our lives, right? The fact that I'm wearing these clothes, the fact that, there's so many things. So once again, why do we do the things we do? Why do we act in the way that we act? Well, over here is the whole realm of because we choose certain things. We make decisions to be a certain way because we freely express the kinds of things that we want to express. And we want to understand the wide range of factors and forces. Why do we act the way we do and do the things we do? Because there are things happening in our lives that shape exactly how we walk through the world. It's like we're puppets, and there's invisible strings, and the strings are sort of connected to us, and we're like a Pinocchio puppet, and we're just being shaped by, there's like an invisible, like the God of life up above us. It's just kind of making decisions and pulling strings in ways that we don't know. That might have been when I was 1 year old. Something happened to me that made me be able to be like I am in this room, but yet be very shy. So I don't know. We have no idea. Maybe it was some kind of weird socialization thing. Have really unbelievably difficult to assess. So, now here's the thing. When you get this, right? Like, look, you might think like, okay, this is meaningless. Dudes, listen, I'm going to call you dudes so I get your attention. This is not meaning. This is the foundation of understanding all social life. And it won't be till you get to my age, maybe, if you keep your minds open, maybe you get to my age and you start to say, oh, damn, that's really, I see this. I see the complexity of it. It's not simple. Nothing is simple. It's very complex. So what you want to say is, anything that you're looking at, you're having an argument with your roommates about why is when I look at the NBA, why is it all black guys? Except a few, Eastern Europeans and a few white and Latino guys. And then I look at the NHL and I look at hockey and I'm like, it's all white guys. Except, a few black and brown guys here and there. It's like, why is that? And then you start having a conversation about it. Like, well, and then you're talking with your roommates, and in the middle of that conversation, you're either going to step over here, and you're going to be in this world of what choices and opportunities and decisions that individual players will make, like they will go toward basketball as opposed to hockey. Or you're going to wander over into this intellectual terrain in which you start thinking about, no, but listen, man, now you got to really understand, basketball is different than hockey. Where they play basketball, where people really play hockey, it's a different environment, and people play a lot of basketball. It's expensive to play hockey, and it's not very expensive to play basketball, and and the socialization and all the things, and your friends are playing, and so you play, and that kind of stuff. Now you're in this world, right? But somebody else says, yeah, but why is it do you have the one white dude, or the 3 or 4 white guys, or the whatever the case is? What about that? And so now you're back over here, and you're thinking about choices that people are making, right? And then you say, yeah, oh yeah, but hang on. And then you're back over there, and you keep going back and forth, because that's the nature of this. And the whole time you're arguing about anything or talking about anything, you're going back and forth between these two sides. Can I drop an F-bomb? I'm good? Dude, you give me permission? All right, dude. And that's fucking awesome. It is so cool. Because when you are in your next argument like that, and if you don't get in these arguments with your roommates or whoever it is, you're not in college, man. Because this is the nature of being in college. You want to argue about this stuff, man. And so when you get in these arguments with them, what I want you to remember is watch to see who's over here and what kinds of things are they saying, and then who's over here and what kinds of things are they saying from this side, okay? And then you want to say whoa, it's all true, because this is what I learned. This is what I learned from the Ongos. That it's all true. They all go together. It's all one big complex mystery. And they all fit together. And the truth is, the person who's homeless made individual decisions that help get that person to that place of being homeless. For sure. And the truth is also, that person who is homeless, guaranteed factors and forces outside their control were operating in their lives in some kind of way that led them to be more or less likely to be homeless. For sure. There's no question. I've never had a conversation with anybody who's been homeless who didn't have an array of factors or forces over here, such that, they didn't even know it, and they were like this puppet, and things were happening to them. And maybe it's they lost their job, and they lost their job too many times, and this and that, or whatever it is, right? They grew up in a household where there was a lot of abuse, or any number of things, right? Their doctor prescribed Oxy, They weren't an addict at all, and they had a shoulder surgery, and their doctor prescribed them oxy, and they suddenly got addicted to oxy. Like, what the hell? And their doctor only prescribed them oxy because the Sackler family and all these other people who ought to be in prison but are not because they're criminals, and yet we're busy arresting people because they stole $5 from a drugstore, but we don't worry about people, or we're not somehow able to arrest the people that steal $5 billion from the people and cause hundreds of thousands of deaths, because that's also a society in which we live. And then, so then they took oxy, and suddenly they got addicted, and boom, there they go. Things far outside of their lives were in operation to get them there. And for whatever reason, they weren't able to bust through that. Why? Because their body just like took that in and went with it. Whereas somebody else, they took oxy and it didn't really hit them at all. And so you see, like, whoa, both things are in operation. So how is it that we're making arguments we're arguing with each other all the time about so many things, when in fact, everything we're arguing, you listen to Joe Biden, and he's talking about, I don't know, dude, he's always yelling. You know what I mean? Dude, I can hardly listen to that guy, because I was listening to him the other night, and he was yelling. Like, dude, what are you yelling about? You know what I mean? God. Am I the only one that noticed that? Does he yell? Do you feel like he's yelling at you? He's like the old grandpa who's sitting like on a chair just screaming at you for stupid shit. You know what I mean? And then I'm going to cut that limb down. And as soon as I cut the limb down, then I'm going to take the logs, and I'm going to put those logs over there. And I'm like, dude, all right, grandpa. All right, so anyway. So we there, right? You got it? Listen to him next time. He'd be yelling at you. I think that's what I liked about Trump. Trump, first off, he just made up words, which was kind of nice. He made up ideas. I have so much I want to say that I will never say. I can't. When I get closer to being at the end of my career, I'll really start to speak the way I want to speak. But y'all have become like, you've been see, here's the thing. It's not your fault, none of you, but you have all these like woke young people who are, I don't know what you're woke to. I don't know what you think you're woke to, or whatever the case is. The right wing woke, the left wing woke. Everybody's like, y'all just you've grown. See, outside of your control, you don't even know it. But the whole world of technology and social media has conspired together with it's not just the left, my friends. Those of you on the right, it's not just the left. The left has their own world of kind of diversity programming, but the right has their own world of right programming, and it operates in the same way. And so you've been like, you're over here, and these strings have come down, and all through your lives, you've been shaped by things that you don't even realize, and they're shaping a way for you to think about the world and be in the world and think about what is and is not offensive. And you've been taught to learn to not even ask why it's offensive, because you don't even know. Most have zero idea as to why certain things are offensive, but then it's like there, and then you become like these puppets, right? And then over here, but you think like, no, but I'm making a free choice about that. When you can't be making a free choice about it, when every other person sitting around you thinks the same damn way, or mostly that way. So then it's not a free choice. The best way to know that you're not thinking for yourself is when you mostly think like the people around you. And when you mostly think unlike the people around you, then you can start to think like, oh, maybe I'm actually thinking for myself. That's the way it operates. But nobody likes that. We all want to think that we're over here making free decisions and, but I'm different. I'm not like everyone else. The news is you actually are like everybody else. So am I. That's the way we operate. And it takes a lot of work to be different. So anyway, the two things, we operate in this way, right? Inner choice, the chance, the choice over here, the chance over here, the freedom over here, the determinism over here. The two things are operating together all the time. They're intertwined. It's awesome. And that's how complex life is. Cool? You got that? All right, man. So let's do a couple pieces on this. Let's do, hey, you can just leave that. Let's just leave that. Hey, let's just talk. I'm just going to talk to you for now. Maita, come on. Hey, so we're, wait, say your name. You can, if you want, if you're more comfortable sitting up here, you can.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maita Al-Zaabi. I'm from the United Arab Emirates, and I'm a junior majoring in mechanical engineering.
Okay, so Maita, yeah. So it's fine, right? It's not so bad?
Oh, it's scary.
It's really scary. I asked Maita
Yes.
didn't fill out the volunteer sheet. Just before class, I sat down next to her and said, hey, can you volunteer today? So I'm like, no, it's not scary at all. It's like, really, honestly, it's all good. We're going to talk about wearing hijabs, okay? Is there anybody else in class who want to come up and we have another microphone. Sit next to Maita. Talk about this issue. Man, any of your Muslim
Come on, I know a lot of Arabs in this class.
Dude, say it in Arabic. Say like, come on, y'all. Like somebody come up here.
البنات المتحجبات دخيلكم تعالوا أنا متفشلة.
Somebody. No, are you Arab? Yeah? Oh, you're not covered either. Oh, even more awesome. Okay, cool. Oh, man. See that? But you know what she said? Yeah. Oh, you're the best. And look at those kicks you got going. All right. Look at your kicks. All right. All right, so, okay, what's your name?
My name is Gigi.
What is it?
Gigi.
Gigi?
Yeah.
Gigi and Maita. Maita. Why do I keep saying Maita? You know why? Because I've spent 10 days speaking Spanish, and I'm just like in that mode, and so, okay. So, tell us about, you heard what I just said about the free choice that you make over here, and then the determined choice that happens over there. Where do you feel like the two of you fit in this? We'll start with you. Like in terms of wearing hijab. First off, are you more following culture, following, whatever it is, all the pieces, right? Or are you way down here with like, nah, man, I'm just making this decision on my own?
I feel like my parents taught me to cover up and wear a hijab. However, I was not forced to wear it. It was my choice.
So let's walk into that, right? So they taught you. What do you mean they taught you?
So my mother wears a headscarf. My siblings, my cousins, and all of my family, they wear a headscarf. So I was unintentionally taught to wear a hijab whenever I grow up.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wore it, and I do accept that decision.
So when you say are you from Dubai or Abu Dhabi?
Abu Dhabi.
So Abu Dhabi is much more conservative than Dubai, right? So how many women? So are there any women in your kind of close family? Because I know you probably have 1 million cousins and stuff, right? So, but are there any people in your close-knit family, any women who do not cover?
No.
No? Okay, so you are, okay, so let's come back to you. Okay, Gigi, where are you from? What's your story?
I'm originally Palestinian.
Palestine.
After the occupation, my family moved to Jordan. And I grew up in went to high school and lived in Jordan until college.
Till college?
Yeah.
But in Jordan, and you don't cover?
No.
Do your family cover?
No one in my immediate family wears a hijab.
Which is not uncommon for Palestinians living in Jordan, right?
Yeah.
That you would not. Especially, what social class are you?
I would say upper middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that, I would assume that too, given that you're at Penn State, right? Which then it's even less likely. So what were you taught about?
My parents are very religious. My mom prays 5 times a day. She's never drank. She's never smoked. She's very devout, but it was never forced upon me. I was taught the values. I was put in religion classes and Arabic classes, but it was never something that was specifically, like I was told, you have to do this and you have to do this. I was given the opportunity to create my own thoughts and believe the things I wanted to. I do consider myself Muslim. I believe in all of the values and the traditions that come with Islam, but it was never something that I was forced into.
Okay, so let me walk through this, right, as a sociologist, right? So over here, both of you, both of you in a way are like some Metha. You know, we're cool, right? Okay, all right. God, I hate being me sometimes, man. Trust me, you have no idea how difficult it is sometimes. You know what I mean? You just think like, oh yeah, it's amazing. It's not. Trust me, man. Okay, so Metha, you live in this called Abu Dhabi, a very conservative place, right? Where what percentage of women wait, first off, when did you first start covering? Let's tell the class that. So
I would say in like grade 8.
Grade 8? And how did that come about?
When I got my period.
So that was the moment. And then your mom talked to you and said, you knew ahead of time, like, hey, or hang on, this is a question. Did you know ahead of time, like, okay, when you start bleeding, then that's going to be the moment you need to make a decision, right? Okay. And then what was the decision? Like, did you already know you were going to cover?
Yes, I already know that.
Like when? Like how old were you, do you remember when you knew you were going to cover?
Honestly, when I started praying, I think at the age of 9.
Okay. So, given what I talked about here, okay, you have all this structure around you. You have a whole culture, a tradition. You have like a religious tradition in the Arab world, right? And not just in the Arab world, but in the Muslim world, okay? You got all this culture, all these strings that at birth, first off, the moment of your birth, you're this person when these invisible strings are coming down and they're connecting to you because you're living there. You know, you weren't living in Jordan in an upper middle class family, or you weren't living in the U.S. as you know, your parents had emigrated to the U.S. when they were, wait, hang on. So your parents, if they had, it would be different if they emigrated to the U.S. when they were in college, and you grew up here as 100% American, right? American Emirati, but you know, you were American, right? But you weren't. So from early on, your life, you're just, the strings keep coming down, your mom wears a hijab, all the women in your family, you know, starting around the age of 9, you already know, like they're strong enough that you already know, like, yeah, this is going to be what I do. So do you see it as a choice?
It is still a choice.
Yeah. See, like the sociologist in me will say, but hang on, so it's a choice, but it's a choice that in some ways has already been made from your moment of birth. Now I'm going to teach you how to think sociologically, right? Because I know that this is. Let me see if I can do this sociologically, right? Because I'm not going to shape. So I'm going to get you to think. I want to get you to think as a sociologist. Okay, so this is the key. So from the moment of birth, You're over here. You're already born there, okay? So you're much more likely to be going to cover. Your parents, your mother covers, your grandmother covers, sisters, aunts, cousins, etc. Everybody around you covers. So that means there's like a flood of water that's going this way. And it's just from moment of birth, that water is carrying you here. And decisions are being made for you because these strings just keep coming down from nowhere, and they just grab onto you, and they're going to keep you going right down here, right? In the meantime, you suddenly get to this place when you're in 8th grade where you got to like do this thing. You have to step into this water in a slightly different way. But you've already been immersed in it. They taught you how to swim. You know how to do it. You're already there. It's going fast down here. It's a current. Like, there's almost like nobody said you had to do it, right? Your parents didn't say you had to do it.
They did not.
They did not. What did they say?
They did not tell me anything. I just took my sister's hijab and I wore it.
What would have happened if you didn't do that?
Honestly, the first time I wore the hijab, my father looked at me and he was like, "Why are you wearing that? You're still young."
Uh-huh. And what did you say?
And I told him that I got my period for the first time, and he was like, "Oh, okay, do whatever you want."
Uh-huh.
And
And
that's
then
it.
make your decision. Do what you want.
Mhm.
But and your mom, what did she say?
My mother was not involved in that.
Yeah?
Like, I just told her that I got my period, and she was like, "Okay, whatever."
Okay. Yeah. Dude, can I just say something, by the way? What's really cool? I've had this conversation many, many times in this classroom.
Honestly, it depends on the parents. Some parents do force their children.
Uh-huh.
However, my parents,
Uh-huh.
I would say they're more open, so they did not force me. It was
Uh-huh.
my choice.
Yeah. Okay. So what I would say is it was a choice because you made a choice,
Yes.
but the choice is still, it's a limited choice.
religious choice.
It's a religious choice,
Yes.
but it's a limited choice because you've already been set up to make that choice. It's like highly unlikely. Like for me, for example, right? Like I could wear knickers or something, right? Like I could like my ancestry. I have a lot of ancestry that's Irish, and Scottish. So I could wear a kilt. You know what a kilt is? It's like a dress that would come down to here. It's not really a dress, but I could wear a kilt. But I'm like, I'm not going to. But I could, but I'm not going to, right? So you could not cover, but you were going to cover. Because, so it's a choice, but it's a choice within a context of a one that you almost have to make. And this is so everybody, I'm going to turn my back to you for a second. So listen, y'all. Hey, by the way, can I say something? I know we just got back. Yeah, I'm going to come back. I know we just got back. And I know it's kind of like, it's actually kind of a nice day out here. Those of you who are watching on the stream, if you're not at State College, it's actually a really nice day. And so it's hard to come into a classroom and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm back. But I just want to say something. You have two Muslim women down here talking about covering, and you have one Muslim woman who's covered, who if you see her out in the streets or out anywhere on campus, you're going to think, oh, this person's really, really conservative. She's talking about getting her period as being an essential moment of making a decision in her life. When I ask American women about their periods, about bleeding, the very common response is, that's a private matter, and how dare you ask me that question? This is the irony of life. You have Mitha, who you're going to assume like, oh, really conservative, Muslims don't do it. She's telling you how she made a decision on the basis of this very personal moment. And I'm thinking, if I'm sitting here if I'm one of you sitting in this room, I'm going to go like, here, hang on, let me do it for a second, right? I'm going to be like, holy shit, what's that? What? Like everything that I wouldn't expect, I suddenly get. So what I would expect for you all is to be like, I got to listen here because there's something's happening that maybe I don't really understand. And maybe that's kind of how the whole world is. A lot of things happen that we don't understand. So what I'm going to ask for is 25 minutes of deep silence so we can talk. Okay, cool? So listen, the thing that Westerners, the thing that we all struggle with is when people hear you say, yeah, but I made a choice. People will assume that you're over here. I made a choice. It's like, no, you know what I mean? But it's like, no, you didn't make this choice over here. You were over here. You were already really swimming up the stream like here, and you made a choice within this context. But your choice, it's a small choice, right? Because it's highly unlikely you're going to do anything other than you did, but it still has to be your choice. And so this is a very different thing. And so to you all, what I want you to see is this is the complexity of sociology, where we make choices within a very narrow range of options, but they're all choices. Just like so many of you who think you chose your major and you did not choose your major. Your major was being chosen for you by your parents and your family and everything in your neighborhood from practically the moment you were born. It was being chosen. And you're sitting here thinking like, oh, I chose my engineering major. Why are you in engineering? Well, just because I like engineering. Like, no, fuck that. What do you mean you like, I like engineering? No, you don't. Oh, it just happens that your father's an engineer. Oh, okay, I get that. So you just happen to not like theater. You know what I mean? Like, this is silly. This is crazy. This is the world we're in. So it's very cool. So Gigi, how about you? Like, tell me about what do you hear from Maitha?
It's obviously not something that I haven't heard before.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes me think about my situation, the people that I grew up with. Like, if there's only one girl in my age group who chose to start wearing the hijab, and when she did, everyone was like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god!" She started wearing the hijab. But it's not that it's uncommon about, like, from where I live. Some of my mom's friends wear the hijab, my teachers, people I know in everyday life. But it's just my community decided that it wasn't something that we were going to adopt.
Mm-hmm.
And it would almost be I would be standing over there if I decided to wear the hijab.
So if you said, you know what, I've had a change. If you go back from Penn State, you go home and you're covered, you're like way over, you are really...
They'd probably think I did too many drugs or something.
Yeah. Which would be, like Maitha, if you went back and were uncovered, they would think the same thing for you, like, what kind of pot are you smoking there at Penn State? You know what I mean? It would be a very similar kind of thing, right? Because you're both in this other place. So why, if you wore it, why would you wear it?
When I was growing up, I had a religion tutor, so she took me through the Quran. She taught me everything and the stories that came from it. And she was covered, and she told me that when I got my period, I would have to wear the hijab. And at that point, I was maybe 7 years old, and I thought about how none of the women in my family were wearing it, and whether I would want to wear it or not. And it was never something that I thought that I had to do to prove my devotion to my religion, or to feel modest, or it wasn't something that I felt like I had to do to go through the world with my ideals and my values.
But let me ask you this, right? So sometimes as a Jordanian Palestinian, right? Do you sometimes walk around, what year are you?
I'm a junior.
What year are you?
Junior.
Okay. Do you sometimes walk around campus and see women who are just like hang on. Can you get a close-up of my face? Like, hang on. Sometimes you see women and you're like, oh my God. And they got like little spaghetti straps here, whatever, a skirt that's like up to here, and I'm like, oh my God. And what do you think about that?
There's some things that are like questionable, like especially when it's cold out, and I'm wearing like a million things, and they're in like a bra.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes it's just questionable. But I realize in the end that I'm in a different place. I'm in a different country. There are different things that are acceptable here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Do you have the idea though that you sometimes wish like that you did cover like in certain places where you just kind of want to be just in your own space and?
I don't think that I have to be covered to be in my own. Like I would never walk around in like almost nothing, because it's just the way that like at home we don't wear shorts outside.
Yeah.
Like you can't. So it's not something that I picked up or I do.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's the way that I show my modesty, in the way that I dress, rather than whether my hair is out or not.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I think then, and Metha, how the modesty question? Can you explain? Could you explain some of that? Because I think there are probably a lot of people here who don't really understand. Maybe, or one of you, could you explain a little bit about that? Like where it comes from and covering and so on? Either of you can do it.
I think it just comes from, it's almost like our version of like privacy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like your body is your own.
Mm-hmm. It's like, it's a temple.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's just like no one needs to see that. Like my mom, sometimes I'll wear something that's like slightly just like questionable at home, and she's like, why? She's like, there's no need, like no one needs to see that, you know?
Uh-huh.
But it's also the fact that my mom at home still needs to remind me that you can't dress like that, you know?
Uh-huh.
But
And when you say like that, what do you mean?
like sometimes I like coming home from the gym and I'm going to like get food, and I'm wearing my leggings and like a shorter shirt. She's like put on a jacket on top of it, so it's just my bum is covered and I'm less revealed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then how do you feel about that?
Sometimes I'm like, because I'm in a rush and I just want to go eat. But I understand that it's just people tend to judge by looks very heavily back home.
Uh-huh.
They'd be like, who's this stupid girl? What does she want?
Yeah, but people judge by looks here, right? So when women are walking around, with an immodest display of skin, let's say, right? Mm-hmm. People are judging at some level, right? In some way.
I think back home when they judge you in terms of how modest you're dressed, it comes from how respectful of a woman you are, like without using the words that
I got you. So if you're immodest, then you're not showing respect to yourself.
To yourself, yeah.
And so, Metha, how about could you say more about that? Like, to whom do you take your covering off, your hijab, your scarf?
Women, my father, my uncles, my brothers, and my future husband.
Uh-huh. So, meaning that, so that means they would see your hair and your full face and everything. Uh-huh. Man, I have so many. So I want to ask the two, Gigi, what I was saying about freedom and stuff, like you see that, right? You see like
Yeah.
What do you see in it? Let me ask you that.
I think that people tend to follow the crowd.
Uh-huh.
It's safer, it's easier. They're like, and then the people who tend to jump away from the crowd are often seen as outcasts or like weirdos.
Uh-huh.
And by example of those weirdos, it causes everyone to follow the crowd even more. But then you see someone who like jumps out of the crowd who is actually very successful and very outgoing and it makes you question whether you have what it takes to follow whatever you're actually thinking.
Yeah, that's cool. So it works in all ways, right? So for you, you're following the crowd by not covering, right? Even though you see all the ins and outs of it, you're following, to a degree, you're also making a small choice, but whatever. You're following the crowd, also making a choice, but following the crowd by covering. And it's like and and I'm following the crowd by wearing the clothing that I'm wearing, right? And by having my hair like it is. I mean, one thing after another, right? So many of us are following the crowds, and then thinking that somehow, or wanting to make as many decisions as we possibly can. And so, for example, like when there's like it's formal time or whatever, right here, like you have like the formals that y'all will do. Those of you like in sororities and stuff, like women here will all wear almost the exact same dress, and it's like, well, you didn't choose that dress. The dress chose you, right? In the same way that all the women in your family and friends, you're not choose. To a small degree, you're choosing, right? But it's choosing you. I mean, all of these things. It's the nature of life. But we all want to think that we're making lots of choices. But it's really difficult to make choices because we're shaped. Anything you want to add on the modesty thing? Can I add something? I feel like the way women are objectified in this world, in almost every culture, right? Except in most Muslim cultures, not, but the way women are objectified, I feel like if I was a woman, I wouldn't want to be, as a Westerner, it'd be really hard to cover because you would be seen as an odd person, just like you would be seen in your culture. But I would feel so comfortable being in a culture that allowed me to cover and not be objectified in that way. And men are not objectified in the same way. It just doesn't happen in the same way. But I feel like it would be just so soothing and like, just to leave the house. Look, y'all, like, you don't go. So I spent a lot of time in the Middle East. You do not walk down the street in the Middle East and men are making comments to women. Like, that shit is not happening. That does not happen. It's maybe in a few places here and there, right? But not in the way here, right? I mean, it happens in very subtle tones, but not like here. Not like on a weekend here. So, yeah. Any final things to add?
Women do get catcalled.
They get catcalled?
Yes.
Yeah, like where?
Well, not like in the streets, like in cars.
Oh, in cars. Yeah.
Yeah, they do that a lot because, like, in the United Arab Emirates, there are like specific places. For example, in Abu Dhabi,
Yeah.
a place called Al Hudayriyat. Like, women and men flirt a lot with each other.
Yeah. I've been in like sitting in restaurants and watched a woman and a man at different parts of the restaurant like texting back and forth and stuff because
Happens a
they
lot.
can't meet each other.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah. Dude, women and men are gonna find a way to figure out how to connect with each other. Yeah. Anybody have a question? Anyone feel like they want to ask a question? You have a question? Yeah.
I can read it out.
Yeah. Here, hang on. Go ahead.
So there was a girl who went to my high school who wore a hijab, and then like progressively through high school, like more of her hair was revealed. I guess like what's the like I don't know, is there like a rule book to like how much you can reveal? Because it kind of like I've noticed there's different styles with like some of it's just like all the way to your forehead and it's like tighter, and then some of them are more like scarves that you would wear around your neck that just sort of like sit on top and they don't really like cover anything. So like I guess like is it sort of like as long as something is on your head, is that like count?
Yeah, when does it count? Yeah.
Women are supposed to cover all of like their hair. Yeah. It's supposed to cover all of their hair.
So is like, and then I guess the next question is like, are you allowed to do like, because I've seen like the same girl do like different styles or like patterns on it. Like, is that something you're allowed to do too? Is that like another like, is that like a fashion choice or is that like
Like, are you talking about the hijab, like
Yeah,
styles
like-
of a hijab?
yeah, like does it have to be plain or like one color?
Not really, no. As long as it's covering your hair and your neck, then you're good. Like, it is a hijab.
Okay.
What I've like noticed growing up, like in Jordan, most women cover like completely, like it's like tied around their face and all their hair is covered. But like in different regions, there's a little bit more leeway. Like if you go to like in Lebanon, they show a little bit more hair. They might have like a strand down here. It's now there's a trend where there's like it's like almost like a headscarf and their neck is exposed, which you're not supposed to do. But it's like things evolve eventually.
But people are going to push always.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like people are always going to push, and they're going to like pull it back a little more and a little more and a little more. So if you were with a guy, oh wait, hang on, we're going to not you, but if somebody like you were interacting with a guy who you were interested in, would it be like a thing you would allow your hijab to go back a little further just to say like, okay, that's cool? Would you like test the water? Not you, but somebody else.
I know women who does that. They think it's considered like
Flirting.
Yes, flirting. However,
For the guy to see more of their
yes.
hair. Dude,
However,
that's
it's honestly it's dumb.
yeah.
But
I think it's pretty
if
cool,
I
actually.
wasn't like the women's place, I would just wear like my hijab regularly. Like it's like I usually show like a few strands
Yeah.
of hair.
Okay, so here's a question from the stream. How often do people change their decision? Like, you know, you start wearing it and suddenly you decide, hey, I'm not going to wear it anymore. How often does that happen? Or they don't wear it and they suddenly decide. Like in your community, how many people?
So this is actually something that happens all the time within us, because a lot of my mom's friends when I was growing up, or like my friends' moms, would be wearing the hijab, and I know till today, like from my close friends and my mom's close friends, like 5 women who have chosen to remove their hijab.
Yeah. So this idea here of this idea that it's a choice and not a choice. And that's kind of how most things are, like the majors that we have, right? Or how we choose to study, or the kind of person we're with, the kind of person we spend our lives with. It's a choice, but it's not a choice. Like the two go together.
But I would say if you like, it's not something easy for these women to do, to remove their hijab. Like
Totally.
it's, you know that everyone is going to talk about it. You know that everyone's going to,
Yeah,
and
yep, totally.
it's almost like I'm an engineering student. I'm like, no, I'm gonna go study theater. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
It gives
exactly.
the-
Yep. Yeah, like you're an engineering major, right?
I'm an IST major.
Okay, yeah, same thing. Because of course you are, because you're Palestinian. You know what I mean? Like, what else could you be? Listen.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess like I know nothing about your religion. Are there any like, I guess, like special like moments in your life where like someone would see you without your hijab? Like what's like I guess like marriage is sort of the one thing I'm curious about, because like on weddings, like is there, because like in some different areas of the world, like we wear like white dresses, but like in some areas there's like a whole getup. So like what's the getup for you?
Yeah, like what happens in the marriage? So for you, at what point would your future husband see your hair? On your wedding, during the wedding itself, before the wedding, or on the wedding night?
After writing the book.
Okay, can you say can you explain that?
So basically, in Arab countries, you and your fiance, and then their parents and your parents, and you go and you write in the book. That's like the direct translation, but it's like basically signing your like marriage contract, and
Yep.
that happens before your wedding.
It's like the marriage certificate. In many cultures,
it's like going to the
they do that.
courthouse and like.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, awesome. And at that moment, you're married. You're killing it. So, somebody, anybody else have a question? We have a couple minutes left. Anyone have a question? Or anyone? Yes. It's on.
So I just had a question about how do you feel when, because I know like a lot of outside, like people who aren't Muslim, like don't understand that it's like the woman's choice and they just think it's like misogynistic. So how do you feel like when people say that it's like misogynistic, even though it's your choice?
But not 100%. Remember,
Yeah.
it's the choice and not choice, right? Remember that. That's the key. Misogynistic, like, it's male
Like
domination.
sexist.
But what do you say about that? And also, what can we say about men and modesty? Do you have a thought on that? Like, how do you... Gigi, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, I'm like the perfect example of like a choice. Like I'm Muslim. I grew up in an Arabic-speaking country. I speak Arabic. All my friends are Arab, but I don't wear the hijab because I don't have to. And the girl that I know that actually decided to put on a hijab, she comes from like one of the most affluent families in all of Jordan. Not many people in her family do wear the hijab, but a few do, and it was her complete choice to do it. Like no one forced her into it. She did it 2 years ago. It wasn't when she got her period. Like it was a spur of the moment thing, and she decided that's what she wanted to do. Obviously, sometimes I'm just like, ugh, Americans. It's just, but it's something that's...
Wait, what do you mean by... Hang on, this is the last minute. What do you mean by that, Americans? Just say it, because I could finish that myself.
A lot of my American friends will tell you that I say this all the time. It's just, it's because I can't blame anyone from America for just not knowing, just genuinely just not having any clue about the things that go on in my life or like other international people's lives. It's usually just this line that I revert to. It's like, like Americans,
Yeah.
like they can't help it. But it's just, sometimes it's just like, come on, like,
Yeah.
open up.
Like, open up to understanding hijabi culture. Right.
Anything
at all, yeah.
Very slow.
Well, that's what, yeah. Hey, listen, you all. Hey, thanks for the two of you for coming down.